Hello everyone, this is Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection 12, Music and the Natural Worlds, Video 7. And this is called The Human Will. Now, in such a huge topic, right? We can say in a concise way that the human will is being able to go on, having the ability to be able to go on. And in that way of looking at it, you think, is the human will automatic? We were talking about the law of persistence and how you'll see a plant coming through a sidewalk or a tarred road. And so many examples like that. And even our ability to adapt as humans. And you can see that in the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom all the time. So, what is the human will? Well, let's do some simple math, okay? The human will. If we take the word will, all right, we put a little subtraction sign. Will minus W equals, yes, ill. If you lose your sense of will, that special something of being able to go on, that's an ill state of affairs. And of course, we can look at many reasons for that. Psychological, emotional, all sorts of physical reasons why. Maybe it's something shutting down and there's a greater will taking over than your personal one, and it might be time for you to leave the planet. Okay? And so you can see the phrases change in order to continue to exist. That's an expression of will. That's talking about, and we've mentioned this before, that having the ability to adapt, the instinctive ability, the programmed ability, that all the animals in plant life, and including viruses and bacteria and all sorts of microscopic life have. Okay? This ability to adapt and change to continue to exist. That is a certain robotic first overlay form of will. And for those of you who are familiar with the overlay system a little bit, the overlay system is intelligence. Programmed intelligence. Now, whatever programmed that knew what they were doing. Now, looking at human life, will is a very interesting thing. And as I was saying before, people can lose their will to live. And if they really convince themselves, if all of their brains and their emotions, everything says, I don't want to live anymore, they won't. They won't. Some people can go extremely rapidly once they really connect to that strongly and really just throw in the towel. Others might have that giving up, but they might take a little longer. It might express itself in other unfortunate ways. But we can see that will has an expression throughout the three overlays. So if I'm practicing, here I'm going to move my mic so it's not too loud. If I do this, you could say, oh, I played a little bit of a long tone. Or I could say, perhaps I'm practicing my will. You know that word air support? More air support, more air support. Not enough direction. You have to deliberately create that circumstance. And that is volition. Your willingness. You said, or have decided, I want to do this. I need to keep that sound happening. And in order to sustain it and maintain it and direct it, I have to have a mental focus that expresses itself through the physiology. That can express itself in terms of what you want to communicate in the production of a sound. So, if you're governed by your purpose life, which is more in the third overlay realms, then that's going to be there, and that's going to be the governing force and the signal of will. That gets transmitted into your mind, gets transmitted into your physiology. Now that's saying it very simply. So will is a fascinating subject for me. And I realized many years ago when I thought, wait a minute. When we're doing breathing exercises and sustaining it, if you wanted to sustain at a certain level of intensity, that is your will, expressed by a consistent stream of air, supported by your support systems, diaphragm, and the like. Embouchure support, that's a form of embouchure. You just can't let your embouchure, oh, it feels like just dropping. Well, it's not much is going to happen. So all of this deliberately putting oneself in the way of a certain mode of development cannot happen unless you have will. I love how profound the obvious is. You'll see a lot of people with some really great examples in the music world, in the brass world, in the trombone world, of some people that have very strong, determined wills. They're determined to keep their playing going in a certain direction forever in their whole life. I've known people on every instrument like that. And that's where they find purpose. That's what really lights them up. That's something they feel compelled to do. And I can't say my will has expressed itself in that way towards my playing in that way. But other parts of my life, what I consider to be very, very, for me at this stage in my life, my will is very strong because I've decided about what I want. Now, here's a fascinating subject. You think, well, what does it mean to concentrate? What does it mean to focus? Well, that's will, isn't it? You have to want to. Now, if you're really, really hungry, and you've probably heard this analogy before, and you're really hungry, and someone puts food you really like right in front of you. And it's the right food in that circumstance. And sometimes if you're just really starved, you're going to eat what's there. Because your body says, hungry, food now. Are you in a state of concentration? Do you have to deliberately focus on that food? No. It's like a bee that's just found the right flower. Totally concentrated. And if you love something and you want to be with that something that you love, everything is magnetized in you mentally, emotionally, physically, to that. And you go to it. And you want to be with it. And you just keep doing it. But here's something important about all this. If you don't want things, people say, oh, you need willpower. So you have to keep saying, I have a goal in mind, and certain things that I do or want are not useful for this particular goal. So then you have to make decisions, right? So this is how the human being is related to persistence, which was said in the last video, is the law closest to the heart of Mother Nature. In the situation we're in right now, could be showing where people's wills are a little bit weak, certain ways, maybe stress eating, maybe having a hard time keeping positive. And that's why it's a good time to discover what you might need to constantly weave into your life and just not wait till the times aren't too favorable or the times are difficult to all of a sudden summon something like a strong will. It might not always. Extreme circumstances may be that you have to help another person. You might find yourself just doing it. But sometimes it's important. I don't know why I'm saying sometimes so much. There's certain circumstances where you won't have to think about going right into action. And other ones where maybe some parts of ourselves that need a little bit more refining or a little bit more development want to get the best of us. And that's where being in charge of your life is important. Even if you want to be in charge of letting go of certain things, I always found people say, just let it go, just let it go. Well, sometimes that's a matter of semantics. And there's different language that speak to different people. Okay? If I say focus on my sound, and I play this little passage, and I think, what was going on in me that I played that? I felt very let go. Just let it go. Let what go? Because if you let something go, guess what? Something's going to fill that gap. Something's going to come in and fill it. It could be a default system that is not useful. So, If I take that same basic passage, if I can remember what I just played, take that same passage and put something else in it, now I made a deliberate connection to a particular element. And it felt right. And that was to earth. Just that certain groundedness. It felt like the right thing for that very fluid melody. So when we make a lot of allies in nature, because we want to, they'll come and help. Like a good friend. Like a good friend will come and help. If you've willingly built a relationship with them. Because when you have different allies, you're just not caught on one thing. You're not depending on one thing. Like someone who's tossed into the sea and all they have is their little jacket, life-saving jacket. And maybe it's not the right size, and maybe it's getting weak. But you have many things that come around and support you because you built a relationship. And in that way, you'll be getting into a lot less ruts. Because you'll always be able to find a new route. This is all related to will. This is all wanting to keep on going. Being able to go on. And sometimes we have to willfully, okay, I'm going to change my mindset. You know, being real grounded didn't work. I'm in the kind of mode right now in the conditions of my mind, and maybe it is my body. But then our second overlay driver says, wow, okay, you know what? You need to be more fluid and more relaxed. Instead of just saying relaxed, which might not help everyone, think of some element. The elements of nature are so wonderful to build a relationship to. And try all four of them. I was walking today, and I walk up some very big hills. Okay, I try to do that every day. And I thought, whew, the body's tired today. And certain days when it's tired, I'll go, you need a rest today. But today I felt, no, I can do it. And it wasn't too hot yet, because it's been really, really hot. And as I was going up, believe it or not, I said, what's going to make my feet just kind of have a pattern? And just the rhythm wasn't working. And I immediately thought, fire. Just pretend there's a bed of fire. And how my feet, from not wanting to be scorched, I wasn't thinking of burnt, but how they would naturally kind of really move along because they wouldn't want to fall into the fire. So it's not like I had fear. I used that kind of, just that energetic movement as if you were going to land and touch on fire. But I had to willfully, in other words, manually, keep that thought going. And because it was so vivid, because I have a relationship with all the elements, it wasn't a problem. But I did have to keep it going. And woo, I wasn't even out of breath. Fascinating. There's so much to discover. Things that you've never heard about before are all there waiting for you to discover and maybe help someone else with. So, the human will. I hope you found it useful. So when you're practicing, you can try different things and willfully put that into your playing.